right, good afternoon and welcome to another Tuesdays at 2 with Haven. Today I'll be talking about oddly shaped rooms and spaces and how to make the most of them. We do see a fair amount of these here in Chicago, so whether it's due to older building regulations and trends or newer construction trying to make the most of a smaller lot size, whatever the case, I've got a few tips for embracing an unusual space and making it functional. So the first step is going to be to assess the space you're working in and find a center focal point for the room. So in a perfectly square room, this is usually pretty easy, but working in an oddly shaped room, it might take a bit more time and planning to figure out how you want to anchor your furniture. But still trying to organize your furniture around a focal point is important if you can. So something like a TV, a fireplace, or a focal window can be your anchor point. And then from there you can build out with your sofa, chairs, coffee table, etc. Even if it means floating the sofa setup. Don't feel like you have to have all your furniture pieces against the back walls of the room, especially in an oddly shaped room. If space allows, floating your furniture pieces in a purposeful way can actually zone out your space better, instead of letting the angled or oddly shaped walls dictate the whole space. So one of the angled wall dilemmas we see a lot are angled fireplaces. If the space calls for it, you can definitely anchor your seating to the fireplace and match the angle, but often you can actually buy yourself more space if you don't. So you can see in this example here, we used the window wall as our anchor, floated the sofa to create separate living and dining zones, and then just embraced the angle of the fireplace as it is to place our TV. So this setup maximized the walkway to the stairs, plus it allowed us to utilize that under the stair space, making best use of all the space in this room. Always remember to consider those walkways and the traffic flow of your room if you can when you create your zones. And you can also use a rug to really reinforce the zones of the room, even layering a rug on top of carpet if you have carpeting in the room. And then you can assess from there any isolated awkward walls separately and try and figure out the best solution. So the next step would be to try and embrace any unusual walls. So if you're working with a rounded wall, consider playing into it and using a curved sofa, a round dining table, or a smaller round game table. You can mirror the curves throughout the rest of the space using modular pieces, round poofs or pillows, or a round mirror on an adjacent wall. And bonus there, curved furniture and shapes are really trending right now, so embrace the shape of the wall instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And then if you're working with an angled wall, you can go more linear and place a long, narrow bench with a runner, a desk and desk chair, or just a piece of art if the space is a bit tighter. In an angled bay window, we love placing 2 side chairs and a side table for a conversational seating area. Bottom line, embrace the wall and space and just make it work for you in some way instead of leaving it as wasted space. Next, I would recommend that you use any nooks for useful furniture pieces. So beside the window nooks are great spaces for a desk and desk chair to create a home office. In this top example here, we turned a sloped attic space into a home office and seating area. When you're working in a space like this, you do want to be mindful of the shorter slanted walls and nooks, and just make sure you're choosing your furniture pieces so that they're a bit lower to fit the space. You can see in this bottom dining room example, we used a buffet, a pair of table lamps, and a mirror to fill this dining room cutout and give it purpose. Or if it's a smaller nook, you could place a chair and a side table for a cozy reading spot, like in this top example. And then finally, we've also been seeing a lot of these under the stairs spaces left open. So we've been trying to give them new life by placing a bench for extra seating maybe, a desk and desk chair for a creative home office solution, or even a dining table and dining chairs like you can see in the bottom photo here. So next you're going to want to hide any awkward corners. So on the flip side of what we just talked about, if you have a small awkward corner that just won't fit any useful furniture pieces, you can always minimize it with a tall plant, a piece of lighting, or a pair of pedestals maybe showcasing a pair of accessories or vases. So that way you're still giving purpose to an awkward corner that wasn't working for you before. Another tip is to try and fake your symmetry, especially when it comes to awkward window placement. My OCD usually kicks in when I see off-centered or unevenly spaced windows in a room. So you could consider hanging floor-to-ceiling curtains symmetrically along the wall to fake the symmetry and kind of hide the irregularity of those windows. You can also just fake symmetry in a space by repeating the same colors and design elements, creating a sense of unity and taking away from the asymmetry of the architecture. So in this top example, you can barely see it now. They did a nice job of hiding it. But the doorways on either side of the bed are just slightly off-center from each other and asymmetrical. But the mirror, the symmetrical hanging pendants, the tall dramatic headboard, those all kind of help to soften the irregularity and create a sense of symmetry in that room. And then finally, embrace obstacles and stay positive when dealing with these sort of oddly shaped rooms. There are going to be some obstacles you just can't overcome, like a column in the middle of your space. So if you can, embrace it, like we did with this column here. Flank it with your seating pieces. In the top photo, you can see we used the placement of the column to kind of create natural zones. So we floated the sofa alongside the column. It broke up the space into two zones in this lower level family room, and it gave them a whole other game table area zone behind the sofa there. Or in this bottom photo, we placed the sectional against that bump out in the wall, and then a console behind the sectional to make good use of the empty space to the left of the bump out. The art in the table lamp helped to kind of further soften that awkward wall, and we just really had to embrace the architecture of that room. So that wraps up my tips for oddly shaped spaces. I hope you found a little bit of inspiration today. And as always, reach out to us with any questions or pictures, and we're happy to take a look. Thank you for joining, and please join us for our next Tuesday at 2. Have a good afternoon.